Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold. We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno, and direct from New Jersey, Metal Walt.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and healthy, and enjoying this beautiful time of the year. Early to mid-September up here in the Rock is just fabulous. The weather's nice and calm. It's not too hot. The sun's still out. It's just, I absolutely love it. What I love even more is tonight's show, as we welcome to the show Judas Priest founding member Ian Hill. Judas Priest, one of our all-time favorite bands. Well, they're out on the road starting on September 16th with a brand new tour with Alice Cooper. This one has a twist to it. It's called the Shield of Pain Tour. They're still on the road for the Invisible Shield promotion, but now they're mixing in the 35th anniversary of Painkiller. 35 years. That's unbelievable. That was 35 years ago. Tonight, we welcome Judas Priest founding bassist Ian Hill to the show. Judas Priest, Alice Cooper, and Corrosion of Conformity are starting a U.S. tour on the 16th called the Shield of Pain Tour. Ian's here to talk about what's going on with the tour. The band is celebrating the 35th anniversary of Painkiller with some tracks they haven't played in years. They're playing some new Invincible Shield songs and some other deep cuts from their career. Let's see, in the discussion, we talk about everything from the 1990 Nevada legal trial to the addition of Richie, Faulkner, and Andy Sneap as the guitarists. He also shares early memories of the 1983 US Festival, where they played in front of 1/3 people. Talks about when the band first came to the U.S. and the iconic band that they played with. Talks about the Tim Ripper Owens era. Now, he shares some really fond memories of that era, which, you know what? Ripper Owens, I don't want to say he saved the band, but he kept the band relevant in a sense. But we talk about that. And he also just talks about, just the general evolving of the band over the last 50 years. But before we dive into it, a quick reminder, head over to metalmayhemroc.com, our website. First thing you got to do, sign up for the newsletter so you get alerts on everything we're doing here. The Monday night live radio show that I do on Metal Devastation Radio. The YouTube channel where we have a couple hundred videos and interviews up there. The weekly podcast like this one right here. They're all alerts. While you're there, go up to the merch page, buy yourself either a hoodie or a t-shirt or phone case. Buy something, support the brand. We would appreciate it. And just a reminder that we are a proud member of the Pantheon Media Podcast Network. What this is, it's a collection of the top tier music and sports podcasts out there. There's a lot of stuff there. If you're into, different kinds of podcasts, there's, the Essential AC/DC podcast. There's the Met Report by Metallica. There's, Jockstrap. It's a cool podcast with Keith Roth of Sirius Satellite Radio and Don Jameson. What they do, they get jocks and sports figures on the show to talk about metal and vice versa. So again, that's all up at pantheonpodcast.com. And just a reminder, if you dig what we're doing here, subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening. Drop us a review. It really helps new listeners discover the show. And if you missed some recent episodes, last week we had Glenn Hughes on from Deep Purple and Black Sabbath fame, talking about his new solo album, Chosen. 2 weeks before that, Sam Spade of glam metal titans, the Midnight Devils, talking about their new tour. And at the end of August, myself, Bill the Rager, and Metal Walt from the Metal Mayhem ROC team, we had a round table discussion sharing our celebrity run-ins and rock star meet and greets and cool run-ins with rock stars over the last 40 years. So again, that's all up at metalmayhemroc.com. All right, let's get into this. Ian Hill, Judas Priest, Shield of Pain Tour, the Painkiller 35th anniversary, and 50 years of heavy metal dominance. For my co-host Metal Walt, I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC. Well, here we are, the fall. Approaching the fall of 2025, Judas Priest celebrates 35 years of Painkiller. They return to the U.S. for the Shield of Pain tour this fall with Alice Cooper, Corrosion of Conformity. Ian Hill joins us to talk about the set list, rare deep cuts, and the legacy of Painkiller. Ian, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC. How are you doing, sir?
No, I'm fine. I'm just fine. And yourself?
We're doing well, thank you. So you spent the summer in Europe doing the Shield of Pain tour. What songs went over well, and how was it playing some of those Painkiller songs again?
Yeah, it's a Painkiller heavy set. It's just one of those anniversaries that keep popping up almost every year, these days. But yeah, somebody pointed out, that the Painkiller got an anniversary coming up, so we decided to celebrate it. It was a very well-received album, widely well-received by nearly everyone. And so we thought it's worthy of a little bit of attention, So I think we might change a little bit. We need a little bit of massaging, we got some rehearsals coming up before we start. But the set list, I think there's we're doing everything except 2 off the Painkiller album, and we're not doing Leather Rebel and Metal Meltdown. Everything else we're doing, amongst other things, of course, So yeah, we're looking forward to it. It'll be good. He went down great in Europe. He went down really well. So I'm looking forward to getting over there and playing it to you guys on the other side of the pond.
Hey, Ian, I'm always curious from a general point of view. Judas Priest, let's say over the last 8 to 10 years, you guys have done a lot of, you've come through the States sometimes 2 and 3 times on these tours. But I will give you guys credit as one of the only metal bands out there that when you see the band on the 3rd leg of the tour versus the 1st leg of the tour, you guys really change it up. How does that go down? How do you guys make decisions? I remember on Invincible Shield, I think John and I saw you in Albany. It was a completely different set list than it was a year before, which we appreciate.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do it just because, a good thing, too much of a good thing makes it commonplace and all that, And of course, we know we're coming through. The thing is, we split things off. We'll do a couple of runs through the States. We'll do a couple of runs through Europe, maybe a couple of runs through South America, what have you, and the rest of the world. Because you like to get through to the major markets while things are fresh, if you know what I mean. So, we'll come through and we'll do all the LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos on the first run, then get to Europe before everything goes off boil, if you know what I mean, and then do all the majors in Europe, and then we come back and we're doing the rest of it. And of course, we always get tied up with doing places we've already done. So we change up the sets. We'll swap things around at least 3 or 4 songs, if not more. This time around, it'll be I think the 4th time we've been there in about 2 years. So we've changed it up quite a lot. Just to keep things fresh, and keep everyone interested.
That's good stuff. Well, we appreciate it as fans. So, hey, Ian, going back to Painkiller, right? That was the 1990, right? In a sense, it was a rebound album for Priest. I mean, things were different. It was a fast and heavy album. You had a new drummer there that brought a new style in with Scott Travis. Rob shaved his head, and, of course, it was also around the time you had the controversial subliminal messages accusation that ended up in that big trial. So, I'm always curious, that must have been an emotional, intense time for the band, but how did you guys stay focused on, getting through that and making this great album and kind of remain disciplined and focused?
Well, the album had already been recorded. We did that before the trial. And the trial itself, I mean, we didn't take it seriously at all until we were actually there. We thought it's just such a stupid concept of subliminal messages. It is sort of there's a subliminal message on that song, and you say, "Well, I can't hear it," and they say that's because it's subliminal. And then it's up to you to prove that something you can't hear isn't there. And that's how stupid it was, And of course, when that was recorded in 1978, I believe it was, that particular song, Better By You, Better Than Me, nobody knew what subliminal messages were anyway, So we didn't take it seriously at all until we got to the courts. Then it got serious. You know, their lawyers were very, very good. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have to stay focused on the album. That was already done. You know, we'd done that while we still think it was a big joke. Yeah, we went straight out of there and straight. I think we went to the Concrete Convention in LA. Just a matter of a week or two, maybe a month at most, and announced it to the world. You know.
Did you actually play that song at that Concrete Convention? I remember you didn't do it in the tour, but I think you did it at that show, correct?
I think we did. We did that, and I think we did Leather Rebel. And I think that's all we had time for. Might be wrong. It's been such a long time ago. You know, it's been sort of 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, whatever it is. So it's back there. Well, 35 years. That's right. It's 35 years ago. So it is some time ago. So memory ain't what it used to be.
Hey, Ian, when you guys were deciding to celebrate this Painkiller, well, you have different guitarists now. You have Andy and Richie. Are there any songs that you're playing from Painkiller now that you didn't play before? And are there any songs that the guys, Andy and Richie, went to bat for that they wanted to tackle live?
I think we played most of them live at one point or another. I think all except One Shot at Glory, I think was the only one we hadn't done. And I think, if I remember rightly, I think we might have played that on the Firepower tour. Was it Firepower? It was either Firepower or the 50th anniversary tour. And that was the first time we played that, and that was with Richie. No, not with Andy, so I think Glenn was still with us then. But yeah, I think we played most other things at one time or another over the years. But yeah, but like I say, we're doing it on this time. Oh, as far as I know, we're doing it this time around. I've got about 2-3 weeks before we kick off, so it might change a little bit.
I know it's a lot of years and it's a lot of gigs, and it's like after a while, how do you retain a lot of that info? But you do have the new guitarist. What's it like witnessing the interplay between the new generation of Priest guitarists versus the old classic Glenn and KK combo?
Yeah, well, I mean, when Ken left the band, he's been left the band now for 13, nearly 14 years since he left the band, you know. And for most of that time, Richie's been playing along with Glenn. So he had time to assimilate, if you know what I mean. You know, we got assimilated into the band and be part of it and part of the original sound, if you know what I mean, which was important. We didn't want to change the band, you know, beyond recognition. So, and he got that, you know. I mean, he's the first thing he did was I think that was wasn't that 50th year? No, it wasn't. It was Epitaph. And of course he was playing all of Ken's parts, if you know what I mean, you know, so he had to do his best to try and sound like Ken. And that was a great wake-up call for him, and a great learning curve as well, you know. And of course he's got Glenn there as well to point him in this direction and that direction and keep him on course, sort of thing. And as the years went by, and obviously he became more and more comfortable with everything and finding his own niche and his own, you know, in a Judas Priest sort of way, if you know what I mean. He's still very recognizably Judas Priest. So he's had sort of 13 years of that, you know, played along with Glenn. And now, of course, Andy's come along and he's got Richie now, you know. Richie's passing on the same information that Glenn passed on to him. So, and that's why we still sound, you know, recognizably Judas Priest. And, of course, Andy's been with us now since, when was Firepower? 2018? So he's been with us 7 years now. You know, he's been playing with us for 7 years. So he's getting more confident and he's getting his you know, he's getting his foot in the door, if you know what I mean. And he's assimilated as well now, you know. So yeah, it seems like everything happened very quickly, and it didn't. It's been years, you know. It's been years, 7 years for Andy, and sort of 13, twice that long for Richie, you know.
Yeah, and I noticed with Andy when he came in, he originally had short hair, but as each tour came on, he seemed to grow his hair out. He looks a lot more Judas Priest-like than he did when he first came in.
Yeah. He didn't fit in at all, did he, with his hair? But that's just strange now. He decided to grow it back, I don't know why he shaved it to start with. I think it's funny cheese up in washing it every day. But he's grown it back, and he looks more like a heavy metal toughie rather than a record producer.
Metal Mayhem ROC.
So Ian, you're always like the steady Eddie guy, as we say, right? You're always positioned on the side next to the guitarist, but kind of, you're out of the spotlight. But you're like in that anchor point on stage. So what's it like for you, like watching Rob every night out there, just getting down and crazy? What's it like being at an anchor point position?
Oh, well, yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? The rhythm section. It's been tied. I mean, all this stemmed back to when I couldn't hear myself or the drummer. Because I was standing right next to Glenn, if you know what I mean. So I used to stand close to the drummer. I used to watch his left hand and the hi-hat to keep time. That was how loud things got, at one point. Everybody could hear it out the front, but I couldn't hear it where I was. And I just sort of stood there, and it sort of stuck. And everybody found their positions on stage, and it stayed that way, I'm perfectly happy being there. The others have tended got a little bit of a larger ego than I have anyway. So it sort of works out,
Let's talk about the Invincible Shield portion of the set. Again, like Walt mentioned before, as the tours and the legs go on, you add songs, take songs off. You're adding new from Invincible. What is the prerequisite to get into the set list?
Yeah, it's difficult, when you go through your back catalogue. Every time you put a new song in, you have to make space and you have to drop someone's favorite, So it gets difficult with each album. So you've got room for 3 or 4 brand new songs. That's about it, We do sort of I don't know. We put in Giants in that we didn't do before. We do Gates of Hell that we didn't do before, but I think we dropped Panic Attack.
So Ian, talking about the 50+ year career of Priest, like maybe from the bassist perspective, is there something, a song of yours that you say it doesn't get the respect it deserves? There's a hidden gem just from the bassist perspective that you say, here's one of the ones that I love because I'm on it and this is what I bring to the table here?
Dissident Regret, I always come back to that. I love that song, we played it 1 or 2 times. But not often enough as far as I'm concerned. It's one of those. It's on that Off Sin After Sin, which is the first, well, as it was then, CBS album, and it's just raw. It's just a raw rock song. It's great. There's 2 guitars. There's a bass player. There's a drummer and a vocalist. The only overdubs really are like a little bit of guitar behind the lead break, and maybe another couple of vocal tracks. Other than that, it's just red raw. You can tell, and it's exciting, It really is. I still get, the hairs on the back of my neck still come up every time I listen to that song. It really is. It's such a good song, and I wish you could play it more. But it's one of the deeper cuts, so it doesn't get the attention it deserves.
Well, it's also some at times when you play the Rage, that's when you get your spotlight moment, right? You come up for that.
Yeah, loads of fun, the Rage. Yeah.
So, Ian, I always think, too, after so many decades of touring, is there any album or tour that stands out to you personally as like the most rewarding, or was there a transformational period for you as a musician? Something when you look back and you say, that was like one of my favorite times in Priest on the road?
I mean, the 80s were massive, that's when we were all pop bands in those days, we were all over the place. That was a good time, playing in front of all those people. But really, the early days, playing in the smaller clubs, and you're living day to day, and going around in the back of a van, and you're sleeping on top of the equipment on your mattress and stuff like that. That was always real. You know what I mean? That was when we stuck our necks out and went for it. And I kind of miss those days, although At my age, I couldn't, and I couldn't possibly put up with the deprivations we put ourselves through. But yeah, you sort of miss those days. And now since Richie's joined the band as well, he give everyone a sort of a shot in the arm. Give everyone new focus and new incentives. A little bit of young blood in the band, but the got the adrenaline flowing again. So yeah, it's difficult over 50 odd years to pick any one point out. But I miss the old days, and I sort of enjoy the new days as well. Being able to do this at my age, I just thought that.
When you talk about the old days, I got to ask you about the first ever U.S. Judas Priest show. You really opened for Led Zeppelin in Denver?
No, it wasn't the first show. It was on the first tour. We were playing clubs. We were opening for who the hell was it? Oreo Speedwagon. We did their tour, and we were getting ready to go home. And the manager called and said, "How much money you got left?" Because you got to sit around for 10 days because I've just got you a gig with Led Zeppelin, and it was a day on the green in Oakland, in California. And we played to Led Zeppelin for the Oakland Coliseum 2 days, one after the other, of course, and that was well worth doing. I mean, that broke the band in California. Every music fan, who lived in the Bay Area. That's right, Oakland was in the Bay Area, that's right. But it was at that show, and although we were on around, I think it was 10 o'clock in the morning, it was great, and well worth doing. That was on the first tour, yeah.
What about the US Festival, 1983? Well, no one had more leather on, and no one played in the hottest part of the day like Judas Priest. It was right when they were really breaking in the States. Share a few memories of that US Festival in 1983, Heavy Metal Day.
Oh, that was something special. It really was. I mean, it's still to this day the most amount of people who play to it at any one time. There's over 300,000 people there, 320, 30,000 people, This phenomenal show really was. And it was remote as well. I remember it being in the middle of nowhere. And the only way to get the bands in and out of the festival site was by helicopter. And I forget who the organisers were. Anyway, that they rented out the Holiday Inn some 5-10 miles away, and those were the dressing rooms. You got dressed in the Holiday Inn. You went to go in a helicopter, and he flew you from the car park in the Holiday Inn, the backstage at the US Festival. And then then the same happened in reverse. But I remember just flying in there, you came over one hill, and there was a field there, an immense field. It was a different colour to every other field, and that was it. And as far as the eye could see, there was just people, It was phenomenal show. We were glad we did it. There's ourselves, Ozzy, I think. Ozzy was on it. Van Halen were on there.
Scorpions.
Scorps are on there as well.
Early Motley Crue.
It was a great show. What a great lineup, Absolutely phenomenal.
Fact check, it was Steve Wozniak from Apple was the Apple Computers was the...
That's right. Of course it was, yeah.
And he claimed he had so much money back then, he just wanted to have a big party with his favorite bands. And it turned into, 250,000, 350,000 people in the Priest. Well, we're heavy metal guys, and we totally love that. There was what about the early Birmingham days, pre-Rock-a-Rolla? Birmingham's a hot topic of late, but you guys were there. Any reflection on the pre-Rock-a-Rolla days way at the beginning?
Yeah, in the Midlands area, not just Birmingham. There were so many places to play. Obviously, in the day before sort of iPads and personal, entertainment systems, everybody went out at night, and they went to see bands play. Even in the small town I'm from, it's a little place called West Bromwich. There must have been at least half a dozen places, ranging from the town hall to the dance hall. There was 2 or 3 bars. There was a club. You know what I mean? And there were bands on there every night. I I saw some great bands that you wouldn't believe. I mean, there's the Adelphi Ballroom. It couldn't have held much more than maybe 1,000, 1,200 people. That was cramming people in. And the bands like Fleetwood Mac, Cream played there, Pink Floyd, all in the early days, all crammed into this small little place, you know. And that's how it was, you know, back that, you know, I'm going back 50 years now, you know. And we were part of that scene, and we were lucky to be part of it, you know. And of course, the many places in Birmingham as well, Henry's Blues House, the Rum Runner, the Opposite Lock Clubs, Barbarella's. There's so many different places to play. And of course, they're not there anymore, you know. Disco killed it off in the 80s. And then personal multimedia killed it off completely in the 90s and 2000s. Great days, though. Great days.
Hey, Ian, I wanted to touch on a period of the band really quick. I was, you're talking about the exit of Painkiller. Rob left after that, and eventually you guys brought in Tim Ripper Owens. I still put the Jugulator album up there as one of my favorites. It's brutal, it's heavy, it's dark, but it's hard to believe that next year will be 30 years since that album's been released. I was at all those shows, but what sticks out for you at that period, maybe good and bad, from that time in the band?
But it was obviously it was a bad time because Rob wasn't there. You know, you got a long-standing vocalist, one of the most renowned vocalists in heavy metal, and he ain't there anymore, you know. But Tim was a tremendous vocalist. He still is, you know. He's a great vocalist. Got a brilliant voice. And it was a different avenue for us, you know. It was, as you pointed out, it was very hard, very harsh stuff, you know. Everything was savage almost. And there's some great songs on it. I thought Demolition was even better than that. I thought there's some of my favorite songs on Demolition, you know. In Between and things like that. There's some great songs on those albums. But it's unfair to ask Rob to sing them, you know, because obviously he wasn't involved.
Of course.
Together, so
Sure.
any more than it's unfair for Rob to ask us to play light stuff and things like Halford stuff, you know. But yeah, they're over here. Coming back to the overlooked albums, you know, there's two right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian, you know, it's funny. You're the longest standing member of the band that's been there, and you've never left. Like, is there any kidding that ever goes around? Do you ever bust the balls of the guys where you get bragging rights for being that guy that's always been there?
No, I'm not that sort of person anyway. No, I just stuck around longer than probably I should.
Well, the tour starts September 16th in Biloxi, Mississippi. Shield of Pain, Judas Priest, Alice Cooper, Corrosion of Conformity. Holmdel, New Jersey show on the 26th of September. Up here in Saratoga Springs, September 27th. There's a few Canadian dates, and they finish the tour in late October down in Texas. Ian Hill, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your catalog. Much due respect. Started seeing you in those early Maiden, early 80 tours, and we look forward to catching up again.
Well, hope to see you at one of the shows down in Jersey or Connecticut, Ian. I'll look for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, have a good one.
John Walt, it's been a pleasure. Anytime, mate. Be safe.
Thank you.
See ya.
Metal for Life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.